Let's start off with James Pearce Jr. here, Joe, in reference to, look, James Pearce Jr., you could make the argument, might be the best player in college football. Now, he's not getting the pub. He's not getting the publicity. I don't necessarily know why. I do think he's the best edge rusher in the country. I don't think that there's any argument. I think he can go to left side, right side. I've seen him at times even do specific things in rushing up the middle. The only thing, and look, he's special at rushing the passer. He is very special. But I do worry about him in the running game a little bit, okay? I do think that there were times last year, not necessarily his fault, because I do think Tennessee just runs way too fast offensively, which I think he averaged like 84 plays a game. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. But when he's on, and if there's a third down in college football this year, I would want James Pearce on my team to get after the quarterback.
So you bring up the concerns about him as a run defender, which I understand.
I still have him at one, by the way.
I know. To his defense, he came in, I think he was like a 220-pounder when he was a freshman. He's up to 242 right now. This is a tall, lean kid. I'm not worried. I feel like he is the type of player who is taking these rapid steps forward that is going to improve his run defense, because he just needs a little more weight. He just needs to be a little bit bigger, because I think right now he's a thin kid. It's tough to be a strong edge defender against the run when you don't have the same weight of a guy like a Landon Jackson or a Nick Scourton. Like, I think, isn't Jackson like 260 something, 270 or something?
Yeah, he's
like that.
He's a big fellow, but
and he's probably one of the best run defending edge rushers.
Okay, there you go.
Football.
Right.
With James Pearce
He's
Jr.
not the pass rusher that James Pearce Jr. is. He's got the same body as like a Von Miller. He's going to be that 240, 245, 250 range. But, Joe, the problem that I have with that is he's going to face two teams this year, okay, that is going to run the ball right at him, right? But, Georgia and Alabama, and what I'm hearing out of Alabama, again, I'm nitpicky, okay? Like, if you're going to be the number one on my list, the best defensive lineman, all right?
Okay.
He's not – can he be better in the run game? And if he is, I think he's the best player in college football.
Outside of that concern, though, I think that the reason why he deserves the billing of being the best player in the country, the most gifted athlete in the country, I think is maybe an even easier way to phrase it, because there's less of a debate there. I don't think that there's a single guy like him that is just on a snap-to-snap basis you have to prepare for. You have to know where he is on the field at all times. And if you watch a lot of tape of games, when he's on the field, teams run away from him. Teams will scheme away from him. They'll scheme slide protection with him in mind, knowing where he is on the field. He is long. He is explosive. His length is a real issue for a lot of these offensive tackles. His production last year was unbelievable, and you could tell that on a game-to-game basis, he was still just putting together the pieces on how to be as good of a football player as he could be. I think that this offseason is huge for him. And I really think if there's a player who takes a huge step forward who's already really freaking good, it's going to be this kid. James Pearce Jr. is a rare talent for his size, his build, his short area explosiveness, his long speed, all that stuff. We just do not see guys like
high
this
motor
play the sport. Yeah, high motor is the biggest thing too. He's got that Will Anderson motor where he'll go 100 miles an hour. Guys like this are just, they're not playing football. They're playing basketball. They're playing other sports. He is going to be an issue in the SEC, and I don't think anyone's going to argue that that's a hot take.
No, for whatever reason, again, I'll say this. I think for whatever reason, people just didn't focus on him enough. And I think that the lack of success from them offensively, maybe people overlook James Pearce Jr. I mean, Joe, we should be talking about him more. But people are going to talk about Tennessee and Heupel and the offense and Nico, and that's what people will discuss. But not just him. I'm going to admit something. I do think that Josh Heupel sneakily, is that a word, sneakily? Has been very sneaky in recruiting a really good defensive front seven. I mean, Joe, they got a lot of dudes back, bro. I mean, you got not only experience returning, you got production returning. So you have another year now. Their secondary is horrendous. And what happens to them is because their secondary is so bad, okay, like even in the spring game, they got lit up. Okay, they're getting there. The front seven is doing fantastic. Just absolutely abused dudes up front. But because their secondary is so bad, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. So people overlook them. I will tell you, Joe, go back and watch every Tennessee game last year of run defense. I did a lot of it today on James Pearce. They were actually really freaking good in the running game. It's just when teams open up against them, Georgia, Missouri, they got their asses beat. The only game that a team really choked them out was Missouri. And look, I'll say this in reference to James Pearce. They ran right at him. I mean, they ran right now. He's getting doubled a lot. I get that, but a lot of teams are going to double you in the NFL, right? Like, I mean, it's not look, I'm being very nitpicky, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
I think one thing that's really weird with James Pearce Jr., I'm not saying it's at the level of, actually, no, it kind of is. It's kind of like Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett-esque.
Yeah.
The best player in the country might not even be in the national championship conversation. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.